I found out he was cheating on me the same day I heard my baby's heartbeat for the first time. No, that's not even the worst part. The worst part was who he was cheating with. My name is Rachel, I'm 31, and I used to believe I had the perfect life. Big ring. Cozy house. A man who kissed my forehead every morning and called me his girl. We had tried to get pregnant for 2 years. I cried every time the test came out negative. He always held me, told me our baby's just taking their time. So when I finally saw those 2 pink lines, I almost collapsed on the bathroom floor. He cried when I told him. Said it was the best day of his life. We danced in the kitchen barefoot. Fast forward 7 weeks. I'm in the doctor's office alone because something came up at work for him. My legs are shaking, my palms sweaty. But the second I hear that little thumping sound, the sound of life, I forget everything. I'm carrying a real human. Our baby. I send him the video. No reply. I wait. Still nothing. So I decide to surprise him. I get home early. Pick up his favorite dinner. I even put on the pink maternity dress he loves. I walk in all smiles, ready to show him the heartbeat video on my phone. The moment I open the bedroom door, my world ends. He's there. On top of her. And the woman? It's my best friend. Kara. My maid of honor. The godmother we chose together for the baby. I freeze. The video's still playing in my hand, the sound of our child's heartbeat echoing in the room like a cruel joke. He jumps off her like he's seen a ghost. She just wraps herself in the bedsheet and stares at me like she's the victim. I don't scream. I don't cry. I just stand there like my soul's been ripped from my body. You said you were working, I whisper. My voice sounds like someone else's. He stammers. Ratch, it didn't mean anything, I made a mistake. Kara starts crying. I didn't mean for this to happen, I swear. I run. I don't even grab my purse. I just run barefoot out the front door, down the street, into the night. My baby is still inside me. But everything else feels dead. I didn't stop running until my legs gave out. I collapsed onto a patch of grass in front of a stranger's house, heaving, choking on air, hugging my belly like it was the only thing left in the world that hadn't betrayed me. I don't even remember calling her. But suddenly my sister Emily was there, wrapping her arms around me, guiding me into her car like I was a child. I couldn't speak. I couldn't stop shaking. She didn't ask questions. She just drove. I stayed with Emily for a week. I didn't eat. Didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling all night, feeling that tiny flutter in my belly that reminded me why I had to keep going. But it wasn't that simple. Because the more I thought about it, the more questions screamed in my head like sirens. How long had it been going on? Why Kara? Why her? Was it just once? Or all those nights he came home late, was she there too? I finally answered his texts on the 5th day. Not because I forgave him, but because I needed answers to stop going insane. We met at a park. I didn't want to be alone with him. Didn't trust myself not to hit him. He showed up with a bouquet of flowers. Pathetic. I didn't even look at them. He sat beside me on the bench. I'm sorry, Rachel. I love you. I messed up. I was stressed, I wasn't thinking. Kara was just there. Just there. Like a piece of furniture. I turned to him, my voice cold and steady. How long? He looked away. A few months. My whole body tensed. So you were sleeping with her while we were trying to get pregnant? He had the nerve to look ashamed. But not enough. It didn't mean anything. I laughed. Loud and bitter. You don't sleep with someone for months if it means nothing. He reached for my hand. I pulled away so fast he flinched. I'm having your baby, James, I said. Do you even get that? While you were inside her, your child was growing inside me. He started crying. Real tears. But they didn't move me. I'd seen him cry before. At our wedding. When his dad died. When I told him I was pregnant. Those tears meant something. These? Just damage control. Then he said the one thing that made me want to scream. I want to fix this. We can go to counseling. We can raise our baby together. Like we were still a team. Like Kara hadn't been in our bed, in my sheets, with her makeup probably staining my pillowcases. I stood up. You don't get to say we anymore. He stood too. Rachel, please. Think about the baby. I turned around slowly, locked eyes with him. I am. And I walked away. But walking away was the easy part. What came next? I never could have prepared for. A week later I got a letter. Not a text. Not an email. A real, handwritten letter shoved under Emily's front door in the middle of the night like some kind of coward's confession. It was from Kara. I didn't want to open it. I didn't even want to touch it. Just seeing her handwriting made my stomach twist into knots. But curiosity is a brutal thing. It started like this. Rachel? If you never forgive me, I understand. I wouldn't forgive me either. But I need to tell you the truth before this ruins your whole life. My hands were trembling before I even hit the second paragraph. She didn't deny anything. Said the affair started after one drunken night during a game night at her place. I remember that night. I left early because I had a migraine. Guess I should have stayed and played referee. But then she wrote something that made my blood go cold. It wasn't just me. James has been with other women too. You think it was just me because I'm the only one who felt guilty enough to tell you. But it wasn't just me. I read that sentence 10 times. My brain couldn't wrap itself around the idea. Other women. Not one mistake. Not one betrayal. A pattern. A secret life behind the life we built together. And then came the final step. He told me once that he wasn't even sure he wanted to be a dad. That he only agreed to try because he didn't want to lose you. I dropped the letter. My heart was racing so fast it hurt. My hands were gripping my belly. I whispered to the little life inside me, you were always wanted. Always. That night I called a lawyer. I didn't care what James wanted. I was done pretending this was salvageable. I wanted to move out of state. Start over. Change my name if I had to. But first I needed to confront him one last time. Not for closure, screw closure, but because I needed him to know that I knew everything. I told him to meet me at our old apartment. Neutral ground. When he walked in, he looked hopeful. As if maybe I was ready to forgive. I threw Kara's letter on the table. He didn't even try to lie. Just stared at it like it was a bomb and he was waiting for it to explode. I read it, I said. All of it. His mouth opened and closed like a fish out of water. Ratch, I didn't want you to find out like this. No? I snapped. When, then? After the baby's born? After I raise it alone while you sneak off to God knows who? He looked like he aged 10 years in front of me. I never wanted to hurt you. But you did. Over and over. With your body. With your lies. With her. And with all the others. I was scared, he said quietly. Of becoming a dad. Of screwing up. Of not being enough. I stared at him. Then why didn't you leave me? Why didn't you just walk away before you burned me to the ground? His silence was answer enough. I handed him the ultrasound photo. This is the last thing you'll ever get from me. Don't contact me again unless it's through a lawyer. And I walked away for the second time. But this time something felt different. This time. I wasn't running. I was taking my life back. They say betrayal feels like a knife in the back. That's not true. It feels like drowning in air. Like looking in a mirror and not recognizing your own face. Like waking up next to someone every day only to realize they were a stranger all along. I thought the worst was behind me. But trauma doesn't leave that easily. I moved in with Emily permanently. She made the spare bedroom mine, painted it soft yellow, filled it with calming candles and a rocking chair for when the baby came. I smiled. I thanked her. I even laughed sometimes. But at night I sat up with my hands on my belly, crying so quietly I'd taste the tears before I even noticed they were falling. The man I loved didn't exist. The future I planned was gone. And the child inside me? They were the only thing keeping me from falling apart. The worst part was that I still missed him. Not the real him. The version of him I believed in. The James who would rub my feet after a long day. Who'd kiss my forehead and whisper, I'm the luckiest man alive. That version of him was dead. But grief doesn't care about logic. Then came the next blow. I was 6 months pregnant when I got the notification. A tag on Facebook. Kara. She'd posted a picture. Her and James. Together. Smiling. At a restaurant. Her hand resting on his chest like she'd earned the right to touch him in public. The caption? When forgiveness is real, love finds a way back. I dropped my phone. My heart was pounding so loud I thought I might faint. Emily picked it up before I could even speak. She saw the post, her face turning red with rage. I'm gonna kill them, she hissed. I swear to God, Ratcha. I stopped her. No. Let them rot. Let them pretend they're happy. Let them lie to the world like they lied to me. But deep down it cut me. Not because I wanted him back, hell no, but because I realized he never stopped. He didn't even try to make things right. He just moved on. Like our life, our baby, our history, me meant nothing. And then, 1 week later, I found out Kara was pregnant too. Pregnant. I saw the announcement through a mutual friend. A photo shoot. Her in a white flowy dress, James kissing her swollen stomach like they were some holy miracle sent from God. And I was done. Done crying. Done mourning. Done feeling like I was the broken one. I called my lawyer the next morning. We finalized everything. Custody. Finances. I didn't want a dime from him, I just wanted peace. He tried to fight me. Said he wanted joint custody. Said he had a right to be in the child's life. I said, "You lost that right when you crawled into bed with the woman I trusted most." He looked at me like I'd stabbed him. But I didn't care anymore. Because I was done being the one bleeding. My baby came early. Not dangerously early, but enough to send a jolt of fear straight through my spine when my water broke in the middle of the night. I was alone. Emily was working a night shift. And I'll never forget that moment, staring at the growing wet spot on my pajama pants, frozen, paralyzed by terror, heart pounding like a war drum. I called 911. The ambulance arrived fast. I was shaking so badly the paramedic had to hold my hand and whisper, "You're okay. You're safe. You're strong." Strong. I didn't feel strong. I felt like a scared little girl pretending to be a mother. The contractions hit hard and fast. By the time we got to the hospital, I was already dilated 7 centimeters. There was no time for thinking. No time for fear. The pain was otherworldly. Like my body was splitting in two. But through every scream, every wave of agony, I kept repeating the same thing in my head. "You're not alone. You have them now. This baby is yours. Yours." Hours passed in a blur. A nurse brushed my hair out of my face and said, "One more push, Mama. You've got this." And then I heard it. The cry. The most beautiful, raw, honest sound I've ever heard. My baby. They placed her on my chest and I broke. I sobbed so hard I couldn't breathe, clutching her tiny, slippery body to my skin like I could absorb her into my soul. A girl. A perfect, screaming, beautiful little girl. I named her Everly Hope. Because that's what she was. My ever hope. My reason. My salvation. I held her all night, refusing to let go, staring at her face like it held every answer I ever needed. For the first time in months. I felt peace. But peace is a fragile thing. The next day he showed up. James. He stood in the doorway of the hospital room like he had any right to be there, holding a bouquet of pink lilies and looking like a man who just discovered religion. "I heard she came early," he said, his voice hoarse. "Is she okay?" I didn't answer. I looked down at Everly, swaddled in my arms, sleeping peacefully. "She's perfect," I whispered. Which is more than I can say for her father. He stepped closer. "Ratch, please. Just let me see her." I looked up, eyes like steel. "You gave up the right to see her the second you climbed into bed with Kara while I was carrying this child." "She's my daughter," he said, a little louder now. "No," I said. "She's mine. You were nothing but DNA. You don't get to be her father just because your name's on a form." He looked like he wanted to argue. But then he looked at Everly. Really looked. And something in his face cracked. Tears welled up. "She looks like you," he whispered. "God, she looks just like you." I didn't soften. I didn't flinch. I just held my baby tighter. Then he said something that chilled me. "Kara lost the baby." I blinked. "What?" "She was 5 months. Miscarried last night." I stared at him, stunned. Not with joy. Not with sympathy. Just shock. Because that explained the look in his eyes. The way he trembled. The way he stared at Everly like she was something from another life. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. And I meant it. Even if she destroyed my life, no one deserved that kind of pain. But I didn't say more. Because I still meant what I said. He wasn't her father. Not in the ways that mattered. He didn't fight me after that. I think something inside him broke the night Kara lost their baby. He came to the hospital once more before we were discharged. Sat on the edge of the chair like a child waiting to be scolded. He didn't touch Everly. Didn't ask to hold her. Just stared at her with eyes full of regret. "I deserve nothing," he said softly. "I know that now. I ruined everything good in my life." I didn't reply. What was there to say? The words he needed from me had expired long ago. When we were discharged, Emily picked us up. She was glowing with excitement, decorating the house like it was Christmas and Everly was the tree. There were balloons, a banner that said "Welcome Home," little star, and a cake that said "Just the Girls." It made me cry all over again. But this time, they were good tears. The kind that make your chest feel light instead of like it's caving in. The first nights at home were rough. No one tells you how hard those nights are. Everly cried every hour. I was exhausted, my body still healing, my emotions swinging like a wrecking ball. But every time I looked at her, her little nose, her tiny fists, the way she'd grip my finger like she knew I was her whole world, I felt something stronger than the pain. Purpose. A month later, I got an official custody offer from James's lawyer. He wanted weekends, holidays, video calls. I tore it in half. My lawyer sent back a reply, supervised visitation only. No overnights. No rights without proof of consistency. James didn't contest. Not once. And then he disappeared. No calls. No texts. No birthday cards. I heard through a friend that he moved out of state. That he and Kara broke up shortly after the miscarriage. That he was trying to find himself. I didn't feel satisfaction. I felt nothing. Because I wasn't living in the past anymore. I had diapers to change, bottles to wash, a baby monitor to check at 3 a.m. Life was chaos, and I loved every second of it. One morning when Everly was about 4 months old, I took her for a walk. It was sunny, breezy, perfect. She was finally big enough to sit up in the stroller without crying. We passed a park and I sat on the bench watching her sleep. A woman beside me smiled and said, "She's beautiful. You're doing a great job." It hit me harder than it should have. Tears welled up in my eyes and I laughed through them. "Thank you," I whispered. Because I was doing a great job. Even when I doubted myself. Even when I wanted to break. Even when I didn't think I could breathe through the pain. I did it. We did it. And in that moment I realized something. I wasn't broken. I was rebuilt. Piece by piece. By pain. By truth. By love for a tiny girl who saved me without even knowing it. 6 months passed. 6 months of messy, beautiful, exhausting, terrifying, miraculous motherhood. Everly learned to smile. Then giggle. Then squeal so loudly the neighbors probably thought I was torturing her. I wasn't. She was just obsessed with the ceiling fan. She started sleeping through the night at 7 weeks. That's when I began sleeping again too. But I never let my guard down. Not fully. Because betrayal does something to you. It reprograms your brain. Even when life is calm, your heart keeps waiting for the next explosion. I went back to work part-time doing copywriting from home while Everly napped. Emily's friend from church ran a daycare and offered to take her twice a week for free. I cried the first time I dropped her off. Stood in the parking lot like an idiot with empty arms and tears on my cheeks. But I needed that space. That break. I'd spent so long being wrapped in survival mode that I forgot how to just exist. One Friday afternoon I got an email from an old college friend. Her name was Marcy and we hadn't talked in almost a decade. She'd seen my posts online, me and Everly smiling in sunlit rooms, my captions full of quiet resilience. She wrote, "I don't know what you've been through, but I can tell something changed in you. You look stronger. Like you walked through fire and built a house from the ashes." I read that sentence 5 times. Stronger. Not happier. Not prettier. Stronger. That word wrapped around my heart and squeezed tight. Because I'd spent so long feeling like I was barely surviving, I didn't realize I'd already started thriving. Everly's first word was mama. She said it one rainy Tuesday while holding a spoon upside down and smearing yogurt into her hair. I cried so hard she started laughing. She had no idea what those 2 syllables meant to me. Mama. Not Rachel. Not ex-wife. Not the woman who got cheated on. Just mama. The most sacred name I've ever worn. And I wore it like armor. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to silence. No crying. No baby babble. Just silence. I panicked. Jumped out of bed, sprinted to her room, heart racing like a gunshot. She was fine. Curled up, breathing steady, tiny hand gripping the edge of her blanket. And I stood there in the doorway, chest rising and falling, tears slipping down my face for no reason at all. Because I realized I was doing it. I was raising her. Alone. And we were okay. No. We were better than okay. We were healing. Day by day. And I didn't need apologies. Or explanations. Or justice. I didn't need him. I had her. And for the first time in my life, that felt like enough. The first time I saw James again after that hospital visit, it wasn't planned. I was at the grocery store with Everly in the cart, halfway through the baby food aisle when I heard someone say my name. I turned and there he was. Standing by the canned peas. Holding a basket. Alone. We locked eyes. My stomach twisted. Not from longing. Not from love. But from that old, familiar sting of history you never asked to relive. He looked thinner. Older. Tired in a way no sleep could fix. Everly started fussing, kicking her legs in the seat. James looked down at her, his face softening. "She's gotten so big," he said quietly. I didn't say anything. Just rocked the cart slightly, trying to calm her down. He cleared his throat. "She looks just like you did as a baby. I remember the pictures from your mom's album." I wanted to scream. I wanted to cry. But mostly, I wanted to get the hell out of that store. Instead, I nodded. "Yeah. She's perfect." There was a long silence. He stepped a little closer, then stopped. "Rachel, I'm not here to make things worse. I think about her every day." I looked him dead in the eye. Thinking about her and being there for her are 2 different things. His shoulders slumped. "I know. And I regret every second I missed." I wanted to believe that. I wanted to believe those words meant he'd changed. That he wasn't still the man who lied to my face while Kara was in our sheets. But it didn't matter anymore, because I wasn't standing in that aisle as a broken wife. I was standing there as a mother, a provider, a protector. I have nothing to say to you, I said calmly. She doesn't know you. She doesn't miss you. She's safe. And she's happy. Please don't ruin that. His face crumpled. I never wanted to hurt you. You didn't just hurt me, I snapped, louder now. You made choices that made our child start her life without a father. You shattered our family before it even had a chance to begin. Everly was squirming now, confused by the tension. I stroked her cheek. He stared at her one last time. And for a second I saw something I hadn't seen before. Real pain. The kind that doesn't ask for forgiveness. Just lives in your chest like a shadow that never leaves. He nodded. Okay. I'll go. And just like that he walked away. No dramatic exit. No begging. No parting words. Just silence. And that silence? It was the most peaceful thing he ever gave me. After that encounter, something inside me shifted. I thought seeing him again might break me. Bring back all the pain I'd spent months burying beneath lullabies, warm bottles, and diaper changes. But it didn't. It was like looking at a ghost. A hollow reminder of who I used to be. I walked out of that grocery store, pushing Everly's cart, holding my head higher than I had in years. That night, I stood in front of the mirror with her asleep in the bassinet beside me. I stared at myself for a long time. Stretch marks, tired eyes, hair in a messy bun, but also strength. I saw a woman who had clawed her way back from hell and rebuilt her identity from nothing. No ring, no promises, no illusions. Just truth, just grit, just motherhood. Emily knocked gently on the door, poked her head in. Hey, she said softly. You okay? I nodded. Yeah, I think I really am. She stepped inside, sat on the bed. He's never gonna be what you needed. But you already have everything you need now. I looked over at Everly, her tiny chest rising and falling. Her fists curled near her face like she was ready to take on the world. I know, I whispered. I know. Weeks passed. Then months. Everly started crawling. Then pulling herself up on furniture. I swear she said dog before she said love. And for the first time in forever I started dreaming again. Not about men. Or romance. Or some fantasy future with white fences and forever vows. I dreamed about stability. About creating something just for me and Everly. So I opened a small business. Just an Etsy shop at first, custom digital prints, baby milestone designs, mama-daughter quotes. I worked while she napped. While she played. While she giggled beside me in her high chair. And it took off. Orders poured in. Reviews full of other moms saying this made me cry or this reminded me I'm not alone. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was building. Creating. Thriving. And then one day a message came. Not from James. Not from Kara. From Kara's mother. She found me on Instagram. Slid into my DMs like a storm cloud with a broken heart. I don't know what my daughter told you. I don't excuse what she did. But I wanted to say I'm sorry. I raised her better than this. And she's not okay. She hasn't been since the miscarriage. I didn't know how to respond. Because the last thing I expected was empathy. But part of me, maybe the mom part, understood. Loss changes people. Shame warps them. Guilt eats them alive. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Because forgiveness wasn't something I needed to offer out loud. I was already free. And the more I let go, the more room I had to hold onto what mattered. Everly. My peace. My future. It's funny how silence becomes a friend. When James first left, the quiet was unbearable. It screamed at me in every corner of the house. It echoed in the empty space beside me in bed. It suffocated me during late-night feedings when no one else was awake but me and a baby too young to know what we'd lost. But now silence feels sacred. It means safety. It means control. It means I get to choose what fills my space. No more apologies I didn't ask for. No more excuses I didn't believe. No more waiting for someone to love me the way I deserved. I started going to a support group. Nothing fancy, just 5 women who met at a local community center every Thursday night to talk, cry, vent, and rebuild each other. They called it the Restart Circle. I called it home. There was Jenna, who left a man after 20 years of gaslighting. Brielle, a widow who raised 3 kids on her own. Sasha, who walked away from a millionaire fiancé the night before the wedding after she found nudes on his iPad. We all had scars. But instead of hiding them, we laid them out like battle flags. And one night, while I rocked Everly on my lap at the meeting, Jenna said something I'll never forget. Sometimes it's not about what broke you. It's about what you do when the pieces are on the floor. And I realized, I wasn't picking up the old pieces anymore. I was building something new. One of the women in the group was a graphic designer. She helped me rebrand my Etsy shop, turn it into a full website. We called it Mama Rising, a space for mothers who had been through hell and still woke up every day to feed their babies, hold their heads high, and say, "Not today, pain." The orders doubled, then tripled. I got emails from women in Canada, Australia, Ireland. Women who saw Everly's face on my posts and said, "She's the reason I didn't go back to him." Everly was too young to know, but her little life was already touching others. And one night, while tucking her into her crib, I whispered, "You saved me, little star." Without even trying. Because that was the truth. She was my heartbeat outside of my body. My proof that something beautiful could rise from absolute ruin. One morning, I found her holding a framed photo from the shelf. It was one of me, pregnant and glowing, taken at 7 months, before everything fell apart. She babbled and pointed at my belly in the photo, looking confused. I knelt beside her and said, "That was you in there." She blinked, then smiled. Not a clue in the world about betrayal. About lies. About heartbreak. And in that moment, I made her a silent promise. That I'd never let her past define her future. No matter who tried to come back. No matter what pain tried to knock again. No matter how the world tried to tell me I wasn't enough. Because I was. And she was living proof of it. A year passed. Everly turned one, surrounded by people who loved her with a purity I didn't think existed anymore. Emily threw her a party in the backyard, balloons, a bubble machine, even a tiny smash cake shaped like a star. Everly wore a yellow dress and a plastic crown. She squealed when the bubbles floated past her face, clapped when we sang to her, and stuck her entire face into the frosting. I laughed so hard I cried. Not the kind of tears that come from grief or bitterness. Not the kind that feel like thunder in your chest. These were soft, warm, grateful. There were no fathers there. No co-parenting tension. No forced photos with a man who'd walked away before he ever earned the title dad. Just women. Strong, bold, messy, beautiful women who showed up, who stayed, who loved. At one point, I went inside to grab more juice boxes. When I came back out, Everly was sitting on Emily's lap, surrounded by the support group girls, babbling nonsense like she was giving a TED Talk. And they listened. Cheered. Clapped like she was a star. And in that moment, I didn't feel loss. I felt legacy. That night, after everyone left and the house was quiet again, I put Everly to bed and scrolled through the photos on my phone. One caught my eye. It was me holding her, both of us smiling, the golden hour light washing over us like something divine. I stared at that photo for a long time. Because I remembered the woman I was a year ago, standing in a hospital room, heart shattered, baby in arms, wondering how the hell I'd do this alone. And now? Now I wasn't just surviving. I was thriving. Creating. Rising. I posted the photo with a caption I didn't plan, but it came straight from the deepest part of me. 1 year ago, I thought my life was ending. Today, I know it was just beginning. I've learned that sometimes the worst heartbreaks aren't punishments, they're invitations. To wake up. To grow. To let go of the life you thought you needed so you can step into the one that's waiting for you. I didn't get the family I planned, but I got the one I needed. Just me and my girl. And that's enough. It got shared thousands of times. DMs poured in. Women told me their stories. Thanked me. Called me brave. But I wasn't brave. I was reborn. And once you've walked through that kind of fire, you don't come out untouched. You come out untouchable. Somewhere around Everly's 18th month, the nightmares stopped. For over a year, I'd wake up drenched in sweat, heart racing, haunted by memories of betrayal that weren't even dreams, just replays of real moments I wished I could erase. The bed. The lies. The sound of my baby's heartbeat playing while he destroyed everything we had. But now I slept. Not just physically. Emotionally. I slept knowing no one was sneaking behind my back. No one was waiting to tear my world apart. Peace wasn't perfect. It wasn't always easy. But it was mine. And then came the message. It was a random Tuesday afternoon. I was designing a new product for the shop, something sweet, a print that read, "She needed a hero, so she became one." When my phone lit up, a new number. Just a single line of text. "I know I don't deserve a second chance, but I'm not the man I used to be. Can we talk? James?" I stared at the screen for 5 full minutes. It didn't shake me the way I expected. Because I knew who I was now. And I knew who he still was. I didn't respond. Not right away. I let the message sit. I fed Everly, folded laundry, answered customer emails. Then, 3 days later, another message came. "Please. I just want to apologize. I need to do it in person. I'm in town." I don't know what possessed me, but I said yes. We met at a public cafe. Bright windows. People everywhere. No room for drama. He looked different. Not older, emptier. Eyes that used to charm now just looked haunted. He brought no flowers. No gifts. Just himself and a paper bag of nerves. We sat, and for 5 full minutes he said nothing. Then he looked me in the eye and said something I never thought I'd hear. I ruined the best thing that ever happened to me. I didn't come to win you back. I came because you deserve to hear me say it out loud. I crossed my arms. Say what? That I was a coward. That I had something beautiful and I destroyed it because I thought I was entitled to more. More attention. More freedom. More power. He swallowed hard. You were never the problem. I was. And I want you to know. I've hated myself every day since I saw you holding Everly and realized what I threw away. I didn't cry. I didn't break. I just nodded slowly. You're right. You did throw it away. He leaned forward. Is there any part of you that could ever let me be a part of her life? Not for me. For her. That was the moment I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was wise. No child needs a man who shows up only when it's convenient for him, I said. She doesn't know your name. She doesn't need your face. She has enough love in her life without reopening old wounds just to say we tried. He looked down. Defeated. But accepting. Okay, he whispered. I understand. I stood, grabbed my purse, and before I left, I looked at him one last time. I hope you find peace. I really do. But this chapter? It's closed. For good. And I walked out. Not as his wife. Not as his victim. As a woman who chose herself. After that final conversation, it felt like the last chain had been cut. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies. No door slamming. No screaming in the rain. Just closure. Quiet. Real. Solid. I walked back to my car, the breeze cool against my face, and sat behind the wheel in silence. Not to cry. Not to process. Just to breathe. I didn't owe him anything anymore. Not anger. Not forgiveness. Not even memories. He was part of the story, yes. But no longer part of the plot. And that made all the difference. That night, I rocked Everly to sleep and whispered a truth I hoped she'd carry forever. You don't need someone to complete you, baby girl. You need someone who never tries to break you in the first place. She was growing fast now. Saying full sentences. Climbing everything. Laughing like her lungs had no limits. And I found myself laughing with her. Like I'd rediscovered my own joy by simply watching hers. A few months later, Mama Rising hit its first major milestone, 10,000 orders. I threw a little celebration with the women from my support group. Nothing fancy, just wine, music, snacks, and way too much chocolate. We toasted with plastic cups and danced barefoot in the kitchen like teenagers. Jenna raised her glass and said, to Rising, not like a phoenix, all flames and fire, but like a mama, soft and steady, one diaper at a time. We all burst out laughing. But her words stuck with me. Because that's exactly what I was doing. Rising. Not in loud, explosive ways. But in the silent victories. The 2 a.m. feedings. The business I built from brokenness. The days I didn't cry. The days I did but wiped my own tears. I wasn't waiting to be rescued anymore. I was the rescue. And one day, in the middle of a grocery run, something happened that brought it all full circle. A woman approached me as I stood in line, Everly sitting in the cart chewing on a toy giraffe. Excuse me, she said softly. Are you Rachel from Mama Rising? I blinked. Yes. She smiled. A little teary-eyed. I just wanted to say thank you. I bought one of your prints when I was going through my divorce. It said, you're not broken. You're becoming. I hung it above my daughter's crib. I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. She reached into her purse and pulled out a photo, her and a toddler, smiling. We're okay now? Better than okay. And I think a little part of that started because of you. She hugged me. Right there in the store. And I realized something as I held Everly close that night. Sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you is just the beginning of the best part of your life. You just don't know it yet. After that day at the store, I started noticing something I'd never seen before, how many women carried invisible scars. It was in the tired smile of the mom at daycare drop-off who always looked like she hadn't slept in weeks but still braided her daughter's hair every morning. It was in the nervous laughter of the woman at the coffee shop pretending not to notice the text messages she wasn't answering. It was in the cashier who complimented Everly's shoes and glanced just a second too long at the empty space where a wedding ring might have been. We were everywhere. The quietly broken. The gently rebuilding. The ones who got up anyway. And I wanted to find a way to honor that. So I started a new series on my website, Her Stories. I posted open calls for women to share their stories. The messy ones. The ones that ended in strength, not fairy tales. And the messages came pouring in. Single moms. Survivors. Women who left affairs. Women who'd been cheated on during labor. Women who never wanted to be mothers but rose to the occasion anyway. And one night, while sorting through submissions, I found one that stopped me cold. It started. I was the other woman. I didn't know he was married. When I found out, I ran. But the damage was already done. I live with that shame every day. I want to be better. I want to be forgiven, not by her, but by the part of myself I betrayed. There was no name. No photo. Just a confession. But I sat there for 20 minutes staring at those words. Because I saw something in them. Not justification. Not manipulation. Just a raw, trembling kind of truth. And I realized something. Healing isn't just for the victims. It's for everyone brave enough to look in the mirror and say, I was wrong. I didn't post her story. But I responded. Anonymously. We're not defined by our worst choices, but by what we do after them. Grow. Keep growing. I never heard back. But maybe I wasn't meant to. Some stories aren't for the public. Some are just for the soul. Later that night, I sat on the porch with Everly asleep inside, warm tea in hand, a blanket over my legs. I looked at the stars and whispered a quiet thank you to whatever force in the universe decided to burn my life to the ground so I could build something real from the ashes. I wasn't bitter anymore. I wasn't angry. I was grateful. Because pain didn't destroy me. It delivered me. Into a life I never could have imagined but now couldn't imagine living without. Life settled into something soft and steady. Not boring. Not dull. Just peaceful. Everly was talking in full sentences by now, half of them hilarious, the other half deeply profound in that accidental way only toddlers manage. One day she looked at me while I was brushing her hair and asked, Mommy, who made you sad? I froze. She said it like she was asking what we were having for dinner. But it hit me like a freight train. I smiled. Swallowed the lump in my throat. A long time ago, someone forgot how special I was. But I remembered. She blinked, nodded like she understood the entire universe, and went back to playing with her doll. But that moment stayed with me. Because that was the gift motherhood gave me, clarity. I no longer saw my past as a wound. I saw it as a scar. A mark of survival. A badge of resurrection. One evening, I took Everly to a small local fair. Nothing fancy, just a few food trucks, a carousel, some music playing from old speakers. She was running around in her sparkly shoes, face sticky from cotton candy, when I saw someone I didn't expect. Kara. She was standing alone near the lemonade stand, holding a cup, her hair pulled back, eyes scanning the crowd like she was searching for something she'd never find. She saw me. And in that split second, our gazes locked, two women connected not by friendship, not by forgiveness, but by fire. I didn't look away. And neither did she. She walked toward me, slow, cautious, like I might vanish if she moved too fast. When she stopped in front of me, she looked down at Everly, who was now trying to chase a bubble into the grass. She's beautiful, Kara said softly. Her voice cracked. Just like you. I didn't thank her. Didn't insult her either. Just silence. Until she whispered, I don't expect you to ever forgive me. I don't even forgive myself. I nodded once. Good. She blinked. Good. Forgiveness shouldn't be easy, I said. Not when you betray the people who loved you. She nodded, slowly, like she'd been waiting years to hear that. I lost a lot more than just a child, she murmured. I lost myself. And I think maybe that's what I needed. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't hug her. I turned, picked Everly up, and walked away. Because closure doesn't always look like hugs and apologies. Sometimes it looks like standing tall while the person who wrecked you watches you rise higher than they ever imagined. I didn't look back. Not because I hated her, but because I loved myself more. And the past? It didn't own me anymore. Not even a little. Fall came fast that year. The kind of crisp, golden autumn that wraps you in memory and makes everything feel like a second chance. Everly was obsessed with pumpkins. She'd squeal every time she saw one, like each orange lump was a long-lost friend. We went to a farm outside town, a hayrides, corn mazes, hot cider. I wore a wool sweater. She wore a tiny denim jacket and boots that squeaked when she ran. I took a photo of her sitting on a pile of pumpkins, cheeks red from the wind, eyes sparkling like she'd just discovered magic. I posted it that night. The caption read, We didn't need a fairy tale ending. We built something better. Just the two of us. And the comments rolled in. Women who'd been following our story from the beginning. Strangers turned sisters. All saying the same thing. You give me hope. I left because of you. My daughter and I are healing too. It made me cry. Because I never set out to be anyone's example. I was just trying to survive. To make it one more day without falling apart. And somewhere along the line, I'd found a purpose. Not the kind that comes from titles or paychecks or public praise. A deeper one. To remind women that they don't have to stay where it hurts. That their babies are better off with a mother who's at peace than with a full house and a broken heart. Everly and I carved pumpkins that weekend. She insisted on drawing the face herself. It looked more like a squiggle with eyes, but we called it Pumpkin Steve and lit a candle inside anyway. That night, while she slept, I sat by the window with a cup of tea, scrolling through old messages I used to keep from James. Apologies. Desperate pleas. Late-night regrets. I deleted them. All of them. One by one. Not out of rage. But because they no longer mattered. His guilt was not my burden. His mistakes were not my memories. And for the first time since the betrayal, I didn't flinch when I thought of him. I didn't wonder what he was doing. Or who he was with. Or if he ever really loved me. Because I finally understood. What he felt was never love. It was need. Possession. Convenience. And what I had now. With Everly? That was love. The kind that shows up at 2 a.m. when you're sick. The kind that wraps tiny arms around your neck and says mama like it's a prayer. The kind that doesn't lie, cheat, or vanish when things get hard. I didn't need closure. I didn't need revenge. I had something stronger. Peace. And that peace was louder than any apology could ever be. The first time someone asked me out after everything, I froze. Not because I wasn't ready, but because for so long I'd lived in a world where romance equaled risk. Where every smile felt like bait. Every compliment like a setup. Every "you're beautiful" a prelude to betrayal. But this guy, his name was Dean, was different. He was the barista at a small coffee shop near Everly's daycare. For months, he made my drinks. Remembered my order. Drew little hearts in the foam of my oat milk latte. He never flirted. Never overstepped. Just smiled like he genuinely liked seeing me. One day, Everly spilled her juice all over the counter. I rushed to clean it, apologizing like I was ruining the world, and he just laughed. Hey, he said, handing me extra napkins, chaos looks good on you. I blinked. Stared. And then, without warning, I laughed. Like full-on belly laughed. It wasn't what he said. It was the ease. The way he didn't try too hard. The way he didn't look at me like I was damaged. He looked at me like I was real. That same afternoon, he passed me a folded receipt with my coffee. On the back, it read, "If you ever want to grab a drink with or without the chaos, I'd like that. Dean." I didn't say yes. Not then. I waited. Thought about it. Talked to Emily. Sat on it for a week. And then one night, I looked at Everly curled beside me and thought, what kind of love would I want her to see growing up? Not fast. Not flashy. Safe. Steady. Honest. So I said yes. We went for drinks on a Thursday night. I wore jeans, no makeup, didn't even bother to curl my hair. I wasn't trying to impress, I was trying to be myself. And you know what? He didn't care. He didn't talk over me. Didn't ask about my ex, didn't treat me like a project to fix. He asked about Everly, about my art, my shop, my favorite books. He listened, really listened. And at the end of the night, he didn't try to kiss me. Just walked me to my car, held the door open and said, "You don't need someone to rescue you. But I'd love to walk beside you if you ever want the company." I sat in the driver's seat afterward, staring at the steering wheel, heart pounding. Not from fear, but from a new kind of feeling. Hope. Not the desperate, fragile kind I used to beg for in my marriage. But something gentler, quieter. Like maybe the world was still capable of giving back after everything it had taken. I didn't know if it would go anywhere. But for the first time since it all burned down, I was willing to try again. Dean didn't rush me. He didn't send texts if I didn't reply in an hour. He didn't try to turn coffee dates into sleepovers. He didn't ask about my past unless I brought it up first. He was just present. Every Friday, he'd bring Everly a mini muffin. She started calling him DD. I told him he'd better treasure that nickname because she was notoriously picky about who got names from her. And slowly, without forcing it, he became part of our little rhythm. He came to the park with us, helped hang shelves in Everly's room, made dinner once when I had the flu and cleaned the whole kitchen before he left. He never tried to insert himself into our lives like a replacement. He just fit. It was terrifying, because trust, once shattered, doesn't rebuild clean. It grows back crooked, nervous, wary of every shadow. and I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I remember one night clearly. Everly had fallen asleep watching Finding Nemo, and Dean and I were on the couch, close but not touching. He looked over at me and said, "You keep waiting for me to mess up." I froze. "I get it," he added, voice soft. "But I'm not here to hurt you. I'm just here." And just like that, tears welled in my eyes. Not because I was sad, but because he saw me. Not the curated version I showed the world. Not the Instagram mom with her little quotes and perfect lighting. The real me. The woman who once cried on the floor of a shower trying to figure out how to live through a betrayal so deep it almost took her down. The woman who stayed, who rebuilt, who rose. Dean never asked to be part of our healing, but somehow he became part of our wholeness. He kissed me for the first time on a rainy Tuesday. No music, no candles, just standing on my porch after dropping off soup and juice for Everly, who had a cold. I said, "You didn't have to do all this." He smiled. "I wanted to." And then he leaned in, and it was slow, gentle, like he was asking my soul for permission. I didn't flinch. I didn't pull away. I let him. And for the first time since my world fell apart, I let someone in. Really in. Not to fill a hole. Not to fix the past. But to walk beside me in a future I never thought I'd get to have. Later that night, while Everly snored softly in her crib, I journaled 5 words I never thought I'd write again. I think I'm falling in love. And this time, felt safe, felt right, felt earned. Dean never pushed for titles. Never asked, "What are we?" Over candlelit dinners or between kisses. He let things unfold. Naturally. Slowly. Like a garden we planted with patience instead of urgency. And that's how I knew it was real. Because real love doesn't chase. It stays. It shows up. It makes room. One morning, while Everly was painting the patio with water and an old brush, she looked up and asked, "Is Dee my daddy now?" My breath caught. She wasn't crying. She wasn't confused. She was just curious, like she was asking why the sky was blue. I knelt beside her, heart pounding, and said, "He's not your daddy, baby, but he loves us, and that matters just as much." She nodded, content with that. And I realized I was the one who needed that reassurance more than she did. Because while she never knew a life with James, I still carried those echoes in my ribs. The fears, the flashbacks, the what-ifs. But Everly, she was just living, free, whole, unbothered by the past. A few weeks later, I invited Dean to stay for dinner on a Sunday. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti, garlic bread, and laughter echoing through the house. After Everly went to bed, we sat on the couch. The room was quiet, lit by a single lamp. And then he said it, not in a rush, not out of obligation, just truth. "I love you." Simple, steady, no fireworks, just a heartbeat in a sentence. I felt it in my bones. And for the first time, I didn't question it, didn't dissect it, didn't wonder if it was real or if I deserved it. I just whispered, "I love you too." And I meant it with every scar, every crack, every piece of me that had ever been shattered. We didn't move in together. We didn't make big announcements. We kept it sacred, just ours. And he never once tried to replace James. He simply showed up. For the scraped knees, the birthday candles, the middle-of-the-night fevers. He was there. Always. And that was what I learned about real love. It's not the grand gestures. It's the groceries he brings without asking. The way he folds the baby blanket just the way I like. The quiet hand on my back when I'm too tired to speak. It's the safety. The soft place to land after a life that nearly broke me. And one night, as Everly lay between us watching Moana for the 100th time, she looked at me and said, "I love you, Mommy." I love Dee too. My throat closed. My heart exploded. And in that moment, I knew. We were whole. Not in the way I imagined. In the way that mattered. 2 years had passed since the day I walked out of that house. The day my heart shattered. The day I heard my baby's heartbeat while her father tangled himself in betrayal. The day everything ended and something entirely new began. Now, I stood in front of a mirror holding Everly's tiny hand, both of us dressed in matching pale blue sundresses for her 3rd birthday party. Dean was outside setting up the backyard. Streamers, cupcakes, a hand-painted sign that read 3 and free. Everly was twirling, giggling at her own reflection, spinning until she fell into my arms. And I looked at her, really looked at her. All the memories rushed back. The ultrasounds. The lonely nights. The courtroom. The silence. The ache. And then. The healing. The laughter. The first steps. The business. The porch kisses. Every broken piece had led us here. I'd spent so long thinking I was ruined. That no one would ever want me again. That love after betrayal was just a fantasy people used to sell self-help books. But standing there, I didn't feel like someone who had been cheated on. I felt like someone who had conquered. I walked outside with Everly in my arms. Dean looked up and smiled like the sun rose just for us. He kissed her forehead, then kissed mine. And no, it wasn't the kind of love they write in poetry books. It was better. It was real. Quiet. Safe. Earned. The guests arrived. Emily cried when she saw Everly blow out her candles. The women from my support group brought wine and hugs and stories. And after the last balloon popped, after the last cupcake was eaten, I sat under the stars, Everly asleep on my lap, and whispered one last truth into the night. I thought my life ended the day he betrayed me. But it was actually the day I started becoming who I was meant to be. Because betrayal didn't define me. Resilience did. And now, when women message me, strangers who are just beginning their own heartbreaks, I don't tell them it gets easier. I tell them, you will rise. Not because you're supposed to, but because you already know how. Somewhere deep in your bones, you remember how to start over, how to protect the pieces, how to love what's left. And if you're lucky, you'll learn that sometimes the best thing a man can ever do for you is leave, because then you'll finally see. You were always enough, even when he couldn't see it. Especially when he couldn't see it. And now? Now the only thing left to do is live. Loudly. Fiercely. Fully. For you. For her. For every woman who's ever had to build a castle from the rubble of someone else's lies. This is your sign. This is your story. Go write the ending you deserve. The kind that doesn't need a prince. Just a queen with a pulse and a purpose.